Hello, crafty friends. This is Anya General with Ink, Paper, Scissors. If you love card making and want more ideas for using your scraps and pattern paper, you're in the right place. This is episode 10 of my Use Your Pattern Paper Scrap series. I upload new videos every Tuesday and Thursday, with a live stream on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I would appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video. So today is all about background dies and your scraps. I'm creating 9 cards today. We'll go over several techniques on how to cut up your paper to use with your background dies. Now let's get started. I'm starting out with this Peekaboo A2 cover plate by A Pocket Full of Happiness. This is a company out of Europe and I love their designs. They seem to have a lot of dies that make simple yet very unique designs. I'm taking a sheet of copy paper and tracing the egg openings with a pencil. I'm doing this so I can see where my pattern paper will have to go. I'm looking through my pattern paper and selecting 9 different papers that will match the spring theme. I'm cutting the paper down to rectangles that are approximately 1 1/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches. Once I have all 9 patterns, I decide where I want them to be on my card front and I glue them to my copy paper with a tape runner. When they are all adhered, I put my Peekaboo cover plate over the background and then send it through my die cutting machine. You could just cut a white panel with this die and place it with some foam adhesive over the copy paper background. I wanted to do the inlay technique today, so I decided to die cut into my pattern paper background. Once I have all my pieces die cut, I add foam adhesive behind my white A2 panel. I then adhere it to a card base. Then I start adding glue to each pattern paper egg and placing it inside the openings. For my next card, I repeat this process again, but this time I don't use any foam tape, and I just go for a true inlay technique. I will speed this up and play some music and return for my next card. On to my next 2 cards. I'm still using the same Peekaboo background die, and this time I want to show you that you can use this technique with larger pieces of paper as well. I'm using a panel that is slightly larger than an A2 size piece of pattern paper. The dimensions are approximately 4 1/2 inches by 5 3/4 inches. I die cut the panel and use foam tape to pop it up for dimension. Then I adhere it to my card base. For my second card, I die cut the Peekaboo cover die out of white cardstock. Then I adhere it to an A2 card base. Next, I stacked the eggs for dimension with the white die cuts that I had left over. And then I glued the pattern paper egg on top. Then I inlay all the pattern paper eggs into their places. The raised eggs give the card a bit of a different look than the previous cards. To finish up the cards, I pulled out all my sentiment strips that are spring and Easter related, and I laid them out on my cards. Then I adhered them with foam adhesive behind them to my cards. To finish the cards off, I added some gold glitter gems to add some sparkle. And all 4 of my cards are complete. For the next set of cards, I'm using the Modern Mosaic die by Concord 9th. I picked 2 pattern papers from my stash that would complement each other and that are at least an A2 size. I die cut both patterns with my Modern Mosaic die. After die cutting, I carefully remove the die so all the pieces stay in place. Because it will be easier for me to select pieces when they're in order, I adhere some mint tape by scrapbook.com over my die cut pieces. The mint tape is low tack, so it will easily release my die cuts when I need them. Let's start assembling our cards. I'm taking an A2 card base and I start adhering pattern paper to the card front. I alternate the pattern paper so no like pieces are next to each other. I follow this rule while assembling my background. Then I repeat this process with a second card panel to build my second background. Once my backgrounds are complete, I die cut the birthday word out of teal glitter cardstock from the Birthday Jotted Script by Memory Box, and the word happy from the Happy Easter die set by A Pocketful of Happiness. Next, I'm die cutting the sealed Ginkgo dies from Spellbinders from white and white glitter cardstock. Then I adhere them together and decide to add some color with my Copic markers on top of my glitter cardstock. For my second card, I die cut the Easter Wishes die from teal glitter cardstock and then a few more of the sealed ginkgo leaves. I use white glitter cardstock for the ginkgo leaves, and then I use a yellow Copic marker to add a bit of color starting in the center with flicking motions. I also find the Lovely Layers rabbit already assembled in my leftover die cut box. To mute my background a little, I use a piece of vellum behind my Easter Wishes sentiment. I simply use my scissors to cut an outline around my words. I adhered them to my card front and my cards are complete. For my next card, I'm using the Sunburst cover die by the Stamp Market. This die is very popular and most companies have their own version of this die, so use what you have. Since this die may be retired, I will link a similar one in my video description below and on my visual supply list in case you're interested. I take a piece of copy paper again and trace the openings of the Sunburst cover die. Then I start adhering pattern paper pieces in the marked areas. One thing that is important to remember here is that the cut lines are actually a couple of millimeters away from the lines I traced. So it's important to cut pattern paper that is slightly larger than the marked areas. While I cut my cardstock larger, I did not pay enough attention to that detail when I was die cutting, so I had to recut some of the bursts. I wanted to be sure to share this so you don't make the same mistake. Once I have my Sunburst pieces die cut, I die cut the cover plate out of craft cardstock and I glue it to an A2 card base. Then I start inlaying my pattern paper pieces. Next, I decide that I want the center to be pattern paper also. So I cut the center circle out of blue pattern paper and adhere it into the openings. Next, I start looking through my die cut box and I pick out some butterflies from my last Waffle Flower card video and I lay them out onto my card front. I also used the Lots of Love dies by Reversed Confetti to die cut my words out of pink glitter cardstock. I cut the shadow layer out of white cardstock as well. I also added some sheer shimmer spray to my butterflies to add some sparkle. I add foam tape to my pieces and adhere them to my card front. I add some Sparkle and Shine Ombre glitter drops by Pinkfresh to my card front to add some sparkle and my card is complete. Next, I'm using the Feelin Hexy cover die by Catherine Pooler. I place it cutting side up on my magnetic mat and I start picking small pieces of cardstock to lay on top of the hexagons. I use mint tape to hold my pieces in place. Once I have several hexagons covered, I add my clear cutting plate on top and let it run through my Anna Griffin Empress die cutting machine. Then I take some press and seal and use it to hold all of my pieces together. Next, I cut the card front out of white cardstock with the same Feelin Hexy die. And then I adhere it to my A2 card base. Then I start inlaying the hexagon pieces. Once I'm done inlaying the pieces I die cut, I check which hexagons I'm still missing and I die cut those out of different pattern papers. Once done, I again adhere them in their place and I repeat this process until I'm done. Then I die cut the Let's Celebrate Happy Birthday word dies out of green pattern paper and the shadow out of black metallic cardstock. I die cut several pieces and adhere them together for dimension. Then I die cut the Field Notes Wildflowers from Spellbinders out of the same green pattern paper and blue metallic cardstock, and I adhere them to my card front. I offset the happy birthday onto the right side to give the card a natural flow. I add some Magic Potion Ombre glitter drops by Pinkfresh Studio and my card is complete. For my last card, I'm using the Empire Inlay card front die by Concord 9th. I again pick 2 pattern papers that are at least the size of an A2 panel, and I die cut both of them. After die cutting, I carefully lift the plate off of the die to keep all my pieces in place. I then use press and seal to keep my pieces together. I lay the press and seal over my die cuts and carefully rub the press and seal so that it will stick to my paper. Then I start poking with my scissors through the holes of the die to help the die release the paper. Once I have all of my pieces in place, I repeat this process for the second pattern paper. When both of my pattern paper pieces are in order, I die cut another panel out of white cardstock and adhere it to an A2 card base. Then I start inlaying my pattern paper into the openings. This is a great way to get 2 cards, but I only had enough time to create one today. Once all my pieces are inlaid on my card front, I die cut the Happy Birthday sentiment from the Versatile Greetings 2 die set by Altenew. I die cut the Happy Birthday letters out of navy blue cardstock and the shadow layer out of silver metallic cardstock. I adhere them to my card front and decide that my card is too simple for my liking. So I pull out the Botanical Do or Die set by Gina K Designs and die cut the greenery die out of vellum twice. I then add the vellum leaves to my card front, fanning out from the sentiment. I only use dots of glue to adhere the vellum to my card. To finish up the card and add some sparkle, I adhere some Sparkling Champagne Metallic Pearls by Pinkfresh to my card, and my card is complete. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial on how to use your background dies for your pattern paper and paper scraps. For even more details, be sure to visit my website. I highly encourage you to subscribe while you're there. It's the best way to stay up to date with everything I have to share. I've also listed all the supplies I used in the video description below, and you can find them in my visual supply list, which is linked below as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. I love hearing from you. And don't forget to subscribe for more card making ideas and inspiration every week. Until next time, happy crafting!